cost more than 100 calendar day for just the Merlin engine. If you throw the stages into the mix and everything else we do, we could, on any given day, we could be running somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 to 50 tests. SpaceX Texas is about 4,200 acres total. I guess an interesting note on that is about half of it is cultivated that we inherited as we leased the land. So we actually have corn, wheat, and just hay in production on the side as well. We have about 15 test areas. So we're standing in the central hangar, which is where we do the first and second stage integration work. So after we test these stages, we put them in the hangar and we do post-test checkouts before we send them to the launch site. The small site is where a lot of the smoke and fire happens. That's where the engines are tested, the Merlin engines, and second stage is tested over there as well. That's another component stand over there. It does a lot of Falcon 9 component tests. If you go up to the north side of the site, that's where the large site is. So that's where booster stand is. That's where we test first stage. We have Dragon sites, so that's where we test Draco, and that's actually where we'll process Dragon. So we'll do all the Dragon cargo offload in Texas. What's also great about Texas in particular is there's always something exciting happening at some particular test stand. There's new boundaries we're pushing, there's new hardware here. We seem to always be in new ground, which definitely means it's never boring around here. There's always something exciting going on.
We're at T-minus 5 minutes and 22 seconds and counting. Things are looking go for an on-time launch. We're continuing to quickly step through the automated sequence that I talked about. We're bleeding in and chilling the Merlin engines right now. The ground systems are continuing to load liquid oxygen onto both the first and second stages. We polled the team at T-minus 38 minutes for readiness to enter the launch auto sequence, as it's called. That's the scripted sequence where the ground and the flight computers prepare the Falcon 9 for flight. There's minimal involvement by the launch team. That's why you don't hear a whole lot on the countdown notes during the webcast. Now currently in propellant load, we're still putting liquid oxygen onto both the first stage and the second stage. As I said before, that'll wrap up at T-minus 2 minutes. We wait as long as we can to keep the liquid oxygen as cold as possible. That gives us maximum performance for the Falcon 9 to carry our customers into space. Some of the events you're going to see coming up very shortly. We're pressurizing the first and second stages. That'll open up the clamp arms and we'll begin retracting the strong back. So in about 3.5 minutes you'll see the strong back recline. That'll move to the 77-degree position. That's our launch position. Prop load will finish at T-minus 2 minutes. Over 1.1 million pounds propellant will be on board the rocket. Currently, Eutelsat and ABS teams are ready. The range is ready to support. Weather conditions look good. So at T-minus 3 minutes and 50 seconds and counting, all is go.
Rapid reusability. You've heard this buzzword be used multiple times as a prerequisite for the quest to make humanity multiplanetary. Now, what exactly is reusability? Well, it's comprised of two main pieces, recovery and then reflight. Now, recovery is something that you've seen on our previous webcast we've had some success with. The stage goes to orbit and it comes back and it lands in a safe manner that we can recover it. The second half of that puzzle is reflight. It's making sure that you are ready to fly that same recovered vehicle again. Until you can refly it, it's not technically reusable. Now we're adding maturity to that recertification program as we speak. But the ultimate finish line for all of these rockets is to land. If it lands on the drone ship, it gets taken on the surface of the drone ship all the way to port. That's what you see on your screen now, in the vertical position. It then gets loaded horizontally onto a truck and taken back to the launch site to be reflown. The exact same thing happens if it lands in a landing zone. It gets put on a truck, as you see, and gets taken to the launch site again. The goal is to return to the launch site, get refueled, retested, and then go back up to space. Now the refueling is a pretty easy part, but the retesting is hard. We want to make sure that the engines, if you remember seeing behind me, they weren't jostled in flight. Nothing was subjected to extreme heat conditions that would cause it to deform in a certain way. That's where automation is key. We need to be able to ensure that the vehicle flies the second time just as safely and just as nominally as the first time. Now remember, that is a secondary mission. So as we turn our sights back over to the primary mission, before we refly, we must land, and before we land, we must launch. So let's listen into terminal countdown now.
T-minus 2 minutes. Stage 2 lock secured for flight.